We are live. So, welcome to everybody who's already in the chat. And where is my chat window? That's the question. There it is. All right. So Tom is here to talk about Peppermint OS.
Great.
Because they recently released Peppermint 8. Everybody knows you, right, Tom?
I think so. It might be a fair bet, but I imagine not everyone because, I'm not that big.
So you run a channel, Switch to Linux, correct?
Switch to Linux, correct. Where we talk about Linux, we talk about privacy, and whatever other fun things tickle my fancy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you have Peppermint installed, correct? Or
Yes,
you
and
have
I have
used Peppermint.
older Peppermint installed over here.
That's the 7 version.
That is 7, Peppermint 7, correct.
So before we get into 8, tell me about 7 because I've not installed 7. How is it? Does it run well?
Yeah, the reason I use Peppermint on this computer is this is a Lenovo S21E little netbook guy. It has it does not have a soldered SSD in it, but it's a 30 gigabyte internal drive. I think the RAM is soldered, 2 gigs of RAM. It's just a very small computer. There's the total of 3 computers in this one's class. This is the only one that has a real processor. The other 2 are Atom processors. This one has an Intel. I don't know the stats on it. But this computer does have, it's obviously it's limited in its RAM and its resources. So I went with, I used to run Ubuntu on here, but I went with Peppermint because I can get away with like 1/5 of the memory consumption on the core operating system.
Right. And it runs on it with no problem, right?
Perfectly, no problems at all. And I typically use this for internet stuff, just basic internet browsing. I also use it to write a lot of documents on LibreOffice.
Nice. Okay, so Peppermint 8 just came out, and that's also based on 1604.
Correct.
So it's definitely going to be an LTS and definitely going to be stable. So what does Peppermint 8 offer?
As far as differences, I should have thought more about this before we started here. But as far as overall differences, I think just some updated applications. I know Nemo is the same version. They went with Chromium instead of Firefox. They did some changes to some basic theming elements. And off the top of my head, let me pull up the chart so I can remember what the rest of them were.
I did take notice that they didn't install Firefox and they didn't install an email program as well.
Correct, and I'm not sure they did in 7 either. And a lot of the reason is Peppermint OS was kind of developed as kind of like a cloud-based Linux desktop, like a Chromebook. However, they did tell me that they did come up with a lot of the core concepts before the Chromebook existed. But if you actually go in and look at it, it will have things like it'll have an ICE application to Gmail. It'll have an ICE application to Dropbox, things that I don't personally use. I went with this because I like how the OS looks, and I like how light on resources it is.
Well, it was definitely light on resources. I did an install of it, and I'll tell you what, it is super quick. It uses a combination, I guess, of XFCE and a couple other. I don't know if is it LXDE that is partially in it.
Yeah, it is kind of a hybrid between XFCE and LXDE. According to their website. I'm trying to remember where that link was that I read that. But yeah, it does take some of the best of those worlds. It did do a little under the hood manipulation of that between 7 and 8. I remember reading about that part. but not enough that I didn't see enough in it that it would justify wiping my 7 and putting 8 on it.
Right.
Although I imagine they would have had things out of the box. Like this has a Broadcom modem. I imagine that, and I know when I installed 7 on it, I had to fight with the modem first. I imagine on 8 they probably have that resolved because the Broadcom issue was resolved by 1604.02.
Yeah,
Which
I didn't have any issues installing. I'd used the additional driver manager, and I
Mhm.
was able to install the NVIDIA drivers, the micro Intel code, and the Broadcom drivers without a problem. So that went easy. But it comes with the Whisker menu, a customized Whisker menu,
Yep.
always fast and always customizable. Just a couple things I noticed about it. It has a an alt tab that is unusual for in my eyes as far as like the lighter desktops. Usually the XFCE desktops don't have a decent alt tab situation, and it looked pretty good actually.
Yeah, and it actually gives you a very nice preview of everything that is going on, and it's a very nice system. I do like how it looks. Actually, you can see here. I don't know if you can see that on mine or not, but you can see how the Alt tab works. Quite
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, it actually was really nice. So I was surprised by that. It also comes with a reset for the default panel. And one thing I noticed when I tried to customize it was that, if you add panels or you replace things, you can't get the default settings back
Mhm.
normally.
Correct.
So I added a panel and I added the Whisker menu, but it comes with a generic Whisker menu when you add it. It doesn't come with the Peppermint version of Whisker menu. But the
Mhm.
nice thing about it was that you actually had the default reset in the Peppermint Control Center, where you could reset the whole panel to its default, which
Yeah,
would gives you back the Peppermint Whisker menu.
I think that's actually something new. Yeah, I'm looking for it in 7, and I can't see that here in 7, but I did see it in 8, actually. And that is actually quite amazing. And you would not believe how important that is because I remember playing with Peppermint the first time and I messed up the menu and I could not get that thing back.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about customizing and messing up menus or anything, but no, that is a great feature because so
Mhm.
many times you go to change things around and try new things, and then you say, you know what, I don't like this, and you just want to go back. And like I said, if you try to just add the Whisker menu back to a panel, you're getting the generic Whisker menu. You're not getting the Peppermint Whisker menu. So
Yeah. Yeah, and in the Peppermint Whisker menu, I did break it the first time I was messing with this, and I think I actually just uninstalled and reinstalled it. That was in a virtual machine, but where it's a lot easier to do that. But yeah, it's as far as and the next thing that I generally look at if I'm looking at obviously I look at a lot of different distros. If you follow my channel, I mean I look at tons of them. But the ones that I pick as daily driver type distros, like I'm running, the computer I'm on here is Cinnamon. I have this one here, and I have a KDE computer back here. I
right.
pick computers and distros that feel complete to me. That's what I don't like about Elementary and some of the other ones is just they don't feel complete to me. I feel like they're lacking too many tools and things that I just kind of want to be there.
Well, Elementary is just one of those distros that it's not meant for everybody. It's meant
Correct.
for
Yep.
somebody who just wants to install something and use it and not need many tools with it. It's a beautiful desktop. It really is. And I actually enjoy running it for a while, for the week or two that I was running it. Not a week, it was a couple days. Seems like more than that. But
Mhm.
I enjoyed running it because it looks great. But in the end, it ends up being that it's too locked down. When
Mm.
you start adding all the other stuff
Yeah.
into it, when you start adding PPAs to it and stuff, you end up breaking things. It's not meant
Yeah.
to be customized.
That's kind of what I found, and what I found because I mean, I think of the videos I've done. Some of the top 5 videos I've ever done were about my fairly negative comments on Elementary OS. But what I found is that through looking at the comment streams, is 50% of the people have a great experience on it, and 50% of the people don't.
Right.
And that's, and that's just the reality of it. But I mean, I'm glad if somebody finds it and really likes it and it works for them. That's great, and that's the power of Linux, that we have that ability. But I I almost think that they've succeeded in producing an Apple like fanboy crowd around it, which
Right.
is odd to me, because like people, like, I have never experienced a lot of hate except on the elementary videos, and it's like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work on my computer. None of my computers I'm
Well,
trying on
I think part of it is because some people want that type of operating system.
it.
They want one that's just looks good and runs, and they don't want to have to tweak it. And if you say something bad about it, it really doesn't necessarily have to be about elementary. A lot of people have bad things to say about a lot of things, but
Yeah.
in that particular respect, they, it's like you just want to defend it, and you just want to say, hey, this is it's not the best thing since sliced bread.
Mhm.
It's not something for everybody,
Yeah.
but it is nice for who it's aimed at.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. It's, it is not an OS that's, and I wonder at times, like, is it an OS for even the majority of the Linux crowd? Because I mean, I don't know, and I don't know what the whole cross section of the Linux crowd looks like, but um, I moved to Linux specifically because of privacy concerns in Windows.
Yep.
When I got to Linux, I was like, wow, I can do stuff that I used to love being able to do with my computers that I can't do on Windows anymore. Like customize it and make it my own. And I wonder how many people move to Linux to customize it and make it their own. And if you don't have that option anymore, is it something that appeals to the Linux crowd? Well, apparently it appeals to some people, just not to everybody. And so, I mean, I
Right.
agree. It's clean. It's, and if you want to use it exactly as they've presented it, I have no doubt that it works well. But, you know, a lot of people want to add extra stuff. And that's,
I want to add extra stuff. I know that. You know what I mean?
mhm,
As soon as I get
yeah.
into as soon as I get into a distro and I install it, I
Mhm.
want to start customizing it. It's the same thing with Peppermint when I installed it. The first thing I thought about just installing what I needed to make a video on it and then doing the video. But I just ended up starting to customize it and put it the way I want to, because that's what you do when you install it. So, okay, so getting back to Peppermint, it's really nice. But who is it aimed at, you think? Like, what user base is it aimed at? Is it aimed at new people? Is it aimed at experienced users? What is it?
You know, for me, when I look at everything at it, one of the things that I see people talking about on their website and things is it's kind of aiming at a cloud based focus. And I really think that maybe the modern younger generation who is so enamored with cloud based, because I can't think of another distro that comes with an ICE application that links to Gmail rather than installing Thunderbird or some other, or Evolution or something. And so the modern lightweight computing trend. I also think maybe almost in a way with how it's configured, the Windows crowd is probably part of that, or maybe, I mean, maybe just the younger school-based crowd, because the cool thing about it is it's so light you can even use it on an old system. So I installed this on a friend's system that was running an old 32-bit computer that was 15 years old. He brought it over and we put Peppermint on it, and it works great. I mean, as
Right.
great as a 15-year-old computer can. I mean, it came shipped with XP. That's how old the computer was. And so we went with Peppermint, and
Wow.
it was his first experience on Linux, and it, no problems at all. I showed him how one or two things are, and he's been using it ever since.
Nice.
So,
Okay, so it has a lot of pros to it, but it does have a few things that I think that they could use, and one of those is a welcome screen. I didn't see any welcome screen whatsoever. Now there is a user guide that you can use, but one thing about Peppermint is that some of the controls are not the same, as far as some of the settings are put into their Peppermint Control Center. So even if you're familiar with XFCE, you're not going to find the settings exactly where they are in
Hmm.
Peppermint. You're going to have to search for them. And to me, it would benefit Peppermint, I would think, to have a welcome screen kind of like Budgie has or Farron OS has or even Mate,
Yeah.
where you have that to say, hey, this is what you do first. You update it, here's your settings, a shortcut to the settings, here's your drivers, that kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'll add another thing that unfortunately their user guide is also an online user guide. So that means that if I do install this on this device and don't have an alternative internet connection, I might be sunk because I can't even get help because I
Right.
can't get online. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it could very well benefit from a user's guide. That's something I didn't even think about because I always shut them off when they first show up.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
Here's my
that's what I think about when I'm, like I said, I'm thinking about who is this based towards, who is the general audience for this, and if it is, and I looked at it from myself. So it's been quite a long time since I've used an XFCE desktop. So I'm going around looking for certain settings that I want to change, and in Peppermint it was different. And I noticed, like, for example, when you go to change, they have a customized look and feel section where you can change the theme, and which changes the colors of the widgets and the panel and everything.
Mhm.
And it allows you to change the icons in the next tab and the fonts and everything. But what happens is when you go to customize that, it doesn't change the window borders. So you actually have to go into the I forget exactly what it's named, but you have to go into another section, another tool, in order to change the window border to match the theme that you just picked. And it's
Yeah, and I still don't remember where that is. And somebody had asked me that very question actually on the other video, so I'll have to look into that.
so
Um,
it just seems to me it would benefit if they had
yeah.
a welcome screen so they could tell you that kind of stuff.
You know who else has that same problem though as KDE? I find KDE definitely a more advanced system. Like I like it, but man, I would not want to unleash KDE on a new user.
Well,
There's so many.
speaking of KDE, they just came out with 5.10,
Uh,
and I guess it says, what's the tagline? It's like something like simple by default and powerful when needed. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if it's quite as simple as they'd like it to be for newer users. Maybe simple for a Linux user that's been around for a while,
mhm.
but for a, like, say you put a Windows user on there for the first time, I don't know if they're going to
Yeah,
find it simple.
but another thing to question about that is I don't want them though to dumb it down. I don't want them to dumb it down to the point where it's so user friendly because that's what happened with Windows. Is it got to the point where it's like they dumbed it down so much you couldn't change themes and styles and colors anymore. And it's like, ooh, I can pick my highlight color. That's about it. Well,
Yep.
I was the nerd in Windows 95 and Windows 98 who, before Windows 98 released the themes custom packs, I actually hacked the registry to build themes. And I had on my start menu, I went in there, I had a folder called themes, and it was literally registry hacks. You click that, it went out and it changed all the registry settings for all of the files. And then all of a sudden, my sound systems changed, my mouse, like all the stuff that changed with themes. And
Right.
I love that. And then Windows 98 came out and it had the themes integrated, so you could build all the themes into it and you could have that theme controller. And then XP still had the ability to do some of the themes, and then 7, and that killed the themes, and then Vista,
Yeah,
Vista.
or you had to purchase something like window blinds or something to
Yeah.
actually customize it. It
Yeah,
just
and then
wasn't.
8, and then 10 has just become, I mean, I didn't stop using 10 because it's a horrendous mess, but it is a horrendous mess.
It is. It is a mess.
And I like, and somebody absolutely loved what I said about the start menu. The start, it's not, they did not bring the start menu back to Windows 10. They gave you the stupid app menu. And if you've ever used the Windows Phone, it's the same menu that was on the Windows Phone. But it's like, I want
Never
to get
had the pleasure.
crap.
Never had the pleasure of using the Windows Phone. So
Oh, well, it was Windows Phone was like Windows Phone had so much potential. But man, did they skimped on the fine details. Like when you came in like on the iPhone, I can come up. I don't even know if I have a calendar available on this thing. But you'd pull up the calendar, right? Then that was back when I used to have to use my a Google Calendar with one of the projects I had. The company would schedule me meetings with clients, and so I'd have to use the Google Calendar every day.
Mm-hmm.
I had that synced on, and you could see the whole view, and you'd see little items on the Windows calendar. I look at that one day and go, that is not possibly it. So we literally took a magnifying glass, and it's random Latin phrases that they threw on the calendar, except one of them was in English, and it said, hello from Seattle.
Oh my gosh.
Like, those are those little things. On an iPhone and even an Android phone, they actually said, hey, this is what the calendar item was.
Well, um, again, going back to KDE, I don't think that it's perfect for new users, but I always end up back on KDE after a while. I go to other distributions, I go to other desktop environments, and I end up always going back to KDE because they innovate so well. Like they have all these new features, and it's funny because I have a love-hate relationship with them. Like in some ways they are so far behind, it's not even funny, and in some ways they're so far ahead of everybody else. It's great. I mean, KDE Connect for one is the best thing out there for syncing your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and yet we're just now getting in 5.10. It just came out for the to switch the audio output from the sound menu in the taskbar. Something that's been missing and been in like GNOME forever, been in other
Wait, what are you talking about? Which part?
where you can drop down your sound menu and you can switch the output right from there to a different output. That's a new feature in 5.10 that's coming out.
I can do that already.
You can't switch the output. You can um, lower the volume, but you can't actually like when I have my system, I have like five outputs, so
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I have to turn off the ones I don't want to use. You can't just switch automatically, right?
Yeah,
You have to go into the settings.
I can right click and open the settings and
Right, exactly. But
okay,
in
gotcha.
5.10, you have the ability to just click on the hamburger
Yeah.
menu right there and just switch the output.
Well, that'll
So
be
that,
cool.
but that's just an example of where, in some ways, they're so far ahead, and in
Hmm.
some ways, they're so far behind.
Yeah, what I like, I mean, my KDE computer, I mean, I built this thing up. I love this KDE computer. It's buggy. I mean, there's a lot of things I can't do on it very well. But man, I just love the look of it, and I've just decided to deal with the bugs. You know.
Well, that's pretty much what you have to do. You have to decide whether it's worth it for you
Mhm.
to run it because you love it, and just live with the bugs that are there,
Mhm.
or switch to something else.
Yeah, yeah, and that's actually that's the reason I use Cinnamon on everything production because I have not yet to encounter bugs on Cinnamon. I mean, people talk about being, if you push it too far. I mean, this computer that I'm on right now is like 32 gigs of RAM. I don't think I'm going to push it. But even my other computer, which has 8 gigs of RAM, I never really push it to any problem. And I've had on my other computer, I've had one issue with a USB port not working, like a USB drive not working well. Um,
Right.
other than that, I've had no issues with it at all in anything. And so that's why I chose to use Cinnamon on this computer as well. Is it's just it works. I don't have to mess with it. It's like that's the problem with Fedora. I don't want to have to install an operating system and then spend the next week trying to get the thing to work. you
Yep.
know, Cinnamon it just works, and that's kind of what I've.
Well,
Uh,
I had tried Farron OS and it worked fine, man. I mean, I was running it for a week or
yep,
two,
yep.
and people had commented on the video and said, "Oh, it's slow, it's this, it's that." But I'll tell you what, I had like hardly any issues with it.
Yeah. What's your system specs?
I have a an older i7. I think it's a 2600K, 16 gigabytes of RAM, solid state drive.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have a problem with that, but I can see a typical medium to low end computer definitely having a problem with the Farron because I mean, it is a resource hog. It takes a lot more resources than any other distro I've ever seen.
Well,
Um,
it took about 2.5 gigabytes of RAM while I
that's
was
a
using it.
lot. Yeah.
Well, normally when I run KDE or when I run GNOME or when I run most distributions, except for something like Peppermint, but normally I'm running about between 1.5 and 2 gigabytes of RAM for
Mhm.
whatever reason. I'll hear people say they can run KDE Neon with 500 megabytes of RAM, and yet my KDE Neon runs about probably a gigabyte or a gig and a half of RAM. So I'm not sure exactly if it's something specific to my system or what, but that's usually what I run.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I know I've looked at Farron a few times, and I think the only reason I wouldn't just throw Farron onto a system, for me is there's just so much on it that I just feel like I want to delete. That's the only problem.
Well, if you're not into changing the themes,
Correct.
like, I mean, that's pretty much the draw to it, is being able to easily change the themes.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, I thought they said something to the effect is they're going to change it around a little bit to do that. Like, I absolutely love how KDE manages that. They give you one or two themes, but then there is an amazingly easy spot to go right into your desktop themes and download more themes. And Cinnamon has the same thing. So, you don't have to have an excess amount of themes. But what's cool about them, like, had they had more resources, and it's probably a matter of resources, but if they had more resources, maybe they could build a Mac clone Farron or a Windows clone Farron or a Windows X clone Farron to choose what you want. But
Right.
um,
Well, I love, and don't get me wrong, I love KDE, but one of my pet peeves with KDE is it looks awesome when you're running the Breeze Dark, and even the Breeze theme.
mm,
When you start to try to change themes up, and when you try different themes, that's when it kind of goes haywire. As far as not as it runs fine, it just doesn't have that same look across the board. Where you try to run a dark theme and Firefox just gets all goofy looking. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It doesn't do well with dark themes. And, GTK apps, and I still say that they need to combine. And I forget which OS it was. There was a operating system, and I don't know if it was. Man, I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the KDE versions, and they had combined what I thought was awesome. Where in KDE normally you have to go to the look and feel themes area to get to the themes, and then you got to go to another area to get to the GTK themes.
Mhm.
Where they had combined in the settings it all into one place, and I thought it was awesome. I think to
Yeah.
myself, this should be default.
I guess kind of on that trend, one of the things that Peppermint has in it is inside the settings is the Firefox themer. So you can force the Firefox to go into a dark theme. And I
I
think
seen that. I didn't try it.
yeah,
That's what
they
that does.
did that because Peppermint itself, generally the default is dark themes.
Yeah.
And even though on Peppermint 8, they took Firefox off as the default browser, they still included that Firefox themer inside the control panel, so that if you want to run Firefox, you can do that. And I'm guessing that Chromium probably does manage darker themes better. I don't know, honestly. I use on my, I don't, I use the split light slash dark theme on my Cinnamon computer. On this one, I use primarily light. On my other work Cinnamon one, but on my KDE here, the theme that I built is quite intriguing, and I actually have an entire video on how I theme the thing. And I moved my mic or my camera to show it, except that might actually knock my camera out. But I want
That's all right.
but it's this kind of hybrid light dark. It looks absolutely awesome, even with Firefox. It's like I love it. It's just so cool. It's like transparent and cloudy and kind of hard to read, but I love it. It's just so cool.
Well, I noticed in KDE when you have the transparent themes, like the menus aren't exactly the easiest to read depending on which transparent theme you're using.
Yeah.
Like if you have a busy background, all the writing goes, it's not as easy to read. But
Mhm.
I did notice in Peppermint, dude, that they have not only do they have the Firefox one, but they have the
Yeah.
Thunderbird. Hey, there's Kitty.
Hey, kitty. Greetings, everybody. Subscribe to Big Daddy
He's
Linux.
awesome.
He rocks. Yeah. The other one was hanging around here earlier, but I think she's run off or is hiding in the corner over there. The other one, when she's in the room with you, she's hiding. Like she likes being in the room with
She's
people,
around.
but yeah, well, she's kind of like an evil stalker, really. I mean, both of them are. I think that this guy here lulls you into security, and the other one's planning to kill you, kind of like
Right.
that oatmeal cartoon. How it's all your cat's planning to kill you. This guy here is he's a homicidal maniac. But yeah.
Well, like I said, I did notice that even though Thunderbird's not installed, they still have the Thunderbird theme lock on there as well. I didn't try it,
Oh, I didn't see a Thunderbird one.
but I mean, maybe that's exclusive to 8. Maybe they just added it for 8, but it does
That
have the Thunderbird theme lock.
that might be because I don't see it over here. Um,
Now, I have never been a big fan of XFCE,
mhm.
and there will be certain things that I don't. It's I'm not able to customize it exactly the way I want to, but I
Yeah,
could easily run Peppermint on a daily basis and not have a problem.
I know that's what's cool about it is it's just it's a very nice system for that reason. I think the other place that Ubuntu Studio uses XFCE, which is I mean is okay, and Qubes uses it, which you just kind of got to deal with it. I'm not a huge fan of like Qubes has virtually no customizability, but for the very good reason that it has to manage its own menu for your own, for its own good, really.
Right.
I think Cubes is XFCE. Is it? Where is the L? I don't know. I think it's XFCE.
So they do have the Linux Software Manager and Update Manager. That's what they use for. I mean, they do have Synaptic installed, but they use the Linux Mint software and Update Manager. They have the Numix folder color switcher built in. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's a color switcher for the folders.
Yeah, and that's exclusive to 8.
Well, you had said that you had tried it and it worked good for you.
Yeah.
I had tried it and I just couldn't get it to switch the colors. Now, that may have something to do with the NVIDIA card or I don't know, or something that was going on. But at least it has it in there. Hopefully, I can get it to switch to color folders. But I definitely think it's geared towards people who may want to switch over from other operating systems, and I think it could definitely use a welcome screen. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, and it would not surprise me if they add that to the list of potential things to do in response to this, because they are another very responsive. It's like Farron OS, very responsive to feedback, which is good.
I've never actually talked to anybody on the team. Do they have a big team working on this, or is this just a couple of guys?
I don't remember how many are on it, but like I said, I'm just basing on the comments that they left me. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like about 8 people.
Nice. So it's
So
not just one or two people working on it.
yeah,
You got a bunch of guys working on it.
yep.
All right. So again, like I said, you have the Whisker menu where now the Whisker menu has always been to me a really fast menu, but
Hmm.
and I hear people I hear people say that you can customize it to make it look modern. I just I don't know if maybe modern and beautiful and that kind of thing is all subjective, but I've never found the Whisker menu to be modern looking. It's good. It's a great menu as far as a working menu. It just I mean, have
Yeah.
you had any experience in making it look modern?
I don't mess around with the Whisker menu quite as much in general. Like I said, because I spend most of my time on Cinnamon. But I've seen obviously this menu and the Whisker menu I put on Ubuntu Mate is quite a bit different. That one having a lot more what you might call more modern features. The ability to put favorites over here and still have the menus pop up over here. Versus on this, it loads up with your favorites, but if you want to scroll down and see other applications, then you can't see your favorites anymore. And I think that that's kind of that difference. But on my Ubuntu Mate, it will, I can have the different groups and things.
Right.
Kind of like the Windows 10. I hope they're not talking about Windows 10. We can put tiles, which
Well,
yes is possible actually. On at least I've seen that on customizing the cinnamon menu.
well, okay. So let's talk about ICE for a couple minutes. There are not many desktop environments or distros that actually put this in, and I'm
Mhm.
wondering why that is. Because it seems to me that it's a good thing. I mean, it seems to me to be able to put any website into a window to make it a program or make it look like a program would be beneficial to people.
That is an interesting question because really, if you think of it, that's exactly what enterprise systems has done for a long time. I mean, if you go to a point of sale system running Windows, the application itself simply runs a web browser underneath it. You just can't navigate to other websites, and that's all essentially all ICE is doing.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know why other ones don't. Maybe other ones haven't thought about it. I guess in that respect, there's two different questions. Well, I guess three different questions. First is, are your users going to be using some online features? And then secondly, are they doing online features as standalones that would require ICE, or are they doing online features like integrated, like GNOME is doing?
Right.
And I think that since more operating systems are going with the deeply integrated, that's probably the reason why that GNOME might very well be ahead of the curve in that respect and integrating all that stuff in. Versus, I'm not that type of person. I do not like all this deep integration. I like to keep things nice and separate, so I can manage things on my own terms. And that's just
But
kind of
that's to
the way
each
I
his
am.
own.
But I also realize I'm probably a little different from most people out there because most people want the path of least resistance. And I admit, like what I'm doing with ebook management and movie management and music management is more overhead than just letting Netflix do it all. But I want more control in my life than that. And that's kind of thing. And not that I'm a control freak or something, but it's that I want to know what I have and where I have it. I don't want to rely on some other company because what invariably happens when you rely on the online accounts to do all that stuff is they change some service, they change some policy, or they deem that you violated your terms of service and you've lost everything.
Right.
And most people, if you start relying on Google to do your data backups, you stop doing data backups yourself. And that's why I take a firmer stance to do all that.
So with ICE, you can put the web link in, and you can tell it to open in either Chromium, Chrome, or Firefox.
Yep.
So, like I said, I just don't understand why other desktop environments or distributions don't put this in because that's one of the things that draws me to Peppermint is to be able to do that. Now, I realize you can go through the hoops and install ICE on other distros, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And I just think it's a really good feature, and I think it's something that Peppermint has over other distros.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm trying to think if I've actually used any of the ICE applications. I usually just get rid of most of them. Like,
Yeah,
it
but
bores me that they include Dropbox because I hate that company. But
well, I'm not talking about the default ones. I'm talking about the ones that I would make that
yeah,
I would want to
like
monitor.
YouTube would be fun.
Yeah, or like WordPress. If you're if you run a blog or something like that, you
Mhm.
could put the WordPress writer in a app
Yeah.
instead of actually. I mean, the web page is way better than the actual WordPress app that you download and install and use.
Hmm.
So something like that would be awesome to have. So um, all right.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that.
so again, we're talking about the softwares installed. There is quite a few games installed, and
Those are all ICE applications, actually.
really,
They are. At least to my knowledge. I know 2D, 3D chess is one. Mahjong certainly is. I think they all are.
well, that's awesome.
Yeah, they are all ICE applications.
I did not know that. That is great. But either way, you have that functionality in there that you don't have to. You have. It's almost like a perfect, not a perfect mix, because I would install an email client and everything, but it's a really good mix of software where you have some games, but you don't have this bloated, huge area of software that you really are not going to use. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what maybe why part of Peppermint looks so full but doesn't have quite as much, is because of that very thing. Is that a lot of what is installed on default is ICE applications.
Right.
Of course, in fact, even Office, you have to install your own Office suite. By default, I think it gives you an ICE application to Google Docs.
Right. Yeah, I actually installed a LibreOffice Writer to
That's
open up
yeah,
my dock.
yeah, that's what I did. Um, so
So you said that you're on 7 and you're not going to go to 8.
no, no, and that was their recommendation: is if you have 7 and everything's working for you, stick with 7, because it's an LTS. It's going to maintain support for a while. And so that was their recommendation on the forum: is if you have Peppermint 7, do you want to go to 8? And the general consensus is no, we don't need to go to 8. And then a lot of people had this question: can I just upgrade my 7 to 8? And the answer right now is no.
I noticed that they have on their webpage. They say they have well, I noticed when I went to install it, you can just you can hit the install right away, and they said that's for like graphical glitches in the installer, so that you don't have them when you go to do the live boot, and then you go to hit the installer. So that is an option as well.
Yeah. If you want to just do the basic installer without booting into the live system first.
Right.
Yeah.
The anomalies are gone, is what it says.
Yeah.
You can encrypt your home folder if you want. Have you ever encrypted your home folder?
Not on Peppermint, but other distros I do. Like Qubes.
I've never done that.
My entire Qubes disk is encrypted. And where did I encrypt a home folder before? You know where I encrypted a home folder? I was experimenting with this, and it actually works. It's kind of funny. I encrypted a home folder on Kodi. on
Kodi.
Media Center. I did, and it works. And to actually get into the operating system, like on a Raspberry Pi, right? What you had to do is you had to follow instructions to ex post facto encrypt a home folder. And so I did that. And so you have to boot the Raspberry Pi up, and then it lags on the home screen. You have to Alt F2 into an alternate command, login, and then you have to log into your new encrypted home folder. And so you can't actually view anything on the Raspberry Pi until you decrypt it. I think that's the only time I've encrypted just the home folder. That was just an experimental, see if that would work.
Well, I mean, I hear about it, but I'm so leery about doing it and then something messing up where I lose files that
I think part of it's just have a good backup strategy. But even if you have a good backup strategy, I mean, you think about it. I produce almost a video every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing a video every single day, guess what? I don't have the time for every single day.
Backing up those videos.
Backing up the videos. Now, most of my videos get dropped onto my NAS. So in theory, I could very possibly, back up in the last hour of the day just by plugging my hard drive into my NAS system, because it detects once I plug in a USB hard drive, it automatically syncs to it. But I could, in theory, do that. But I don't.
Well, it also says here, keeping a home folder from a previous version will result in missing configuration files because they can't be copied.
The problem with not being able to upgrade from 7 to 8, because some of the configuration files have changed. And so if you try and just take your home folder, save that aside, wipe your drive, install 8, and then drop your same home folder back on, your applications will probably need to be reset.
Yeah. because that's what I normally do. I mean, that's like kind of part of my backup method is to have a separate home partition, and then I back that up and then just copy it back over once I'm done installing whatever I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to work too well for this one.
I'm going to try and keep up on the comments over here, too.
System D. Make System D run your backups.
One of the challenges I have, though, is I run, like, one of my clients insists that I use this stupid social base clock for logging hours. And it's like, you can just install a desktop app. Well, A, no.
Right.
B, I'm not logging into that thing everywhere. And C, I could very well be working on your projects on any one of like 10 computers. And even the computer I'm doing this recording on, I run, just today alone, I've already run 3 complete different operating systems on this computer. So it's not like I can run just one thing. And that's not including the fact that I have a Mac down here I've used. I have a KDE computer here, and I have a Windows computer here. So needless to say, I'm totally surrounded by computers all day long. I don't have one script that can run everything in this office.
Right.
So, but welcome to the life of a web designer,
So, Chicken says, I always make ICE applications for Google Photos, Drive, Docs, but also the forums I frequent.
Huh.
Not
that's
those using PHPB though, because they look hard.
Well, PHPBB always looks horrid. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't run Peppermint, but if I did, I would be running the ICE apps everywhere, dude, because that just seems to me to be the way to go.
I think that's probably is the best way to go. In fact, it brings up a question: should we do that more? Like, I run. I have an Ubuntu install that I use for my banking, which is like based as a super secure. The disk is encrypted, the home folder's encrypted. I mean, it's just crazy encryption everywhere. And then, I've locked out all ad networks. I've done just everything that I can do to keep everything out of it, turn on extra firewalls, but I still have to go to the web browser and type in the 4 sites that I use that thing for. It'd be very much better if I just did an ICE application. So I don't know. Maybe I should revamp that with an encrypted Peppermint instead.
Yeah.
And run ICE applications for the banking software banking websites that I need. And I might have a more secure environment that way.
I forget who I was talking to. They said for banking, they run a, I don't know if they ran one of the distros on a USB. They boot into it to do their banking. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but this guy, I mean, I think it was Tails that they ran. Or some one of those
I would
like
never
that.
use Tails to do banking because Tails is going to route everything through Tor, and you don't want to route your banking through Tor.
Like I said, I forget which one he used, but he used
Qubes
specifically just for that.
Yeah, well, I think this. Oh no, not that one. That's my business for my other one. This one here, there you go. This one here is my banking computer. So, it's just a little 16 gigabyte USB 3 drive, runs Ubuntu, and it's totally locked down. I can drop that into any of the computers in the office and boot, boot the system.
Right.
So, but yeah.
So, do you use a VPN?
I only use a VPN when I'm not in the office. The challenge with using a VPN for we're to this point where the businesses have been pushing the VPNs more than they should be. Understand what a VPN initially was designed for was to be able to access an alternative network when you are not in that network, as if you were in that network.
Right.
And so what has happened is a lot of people talk about use a VPN. Well, the problem is still ISPs are a safer place to put your data than some other party that you don't even know who they are or where they are or really what they're doing. I'd rather trust, as much as I'm not a fan of my ISP, I'd rather trust my ISP with my browsing data than a VPN, especially since there's a lot of evidence that some of these people are starting to harvest that data. For example, I want to say it was Constant Contact. It was one of the people that just does mail forms. Well, they're pushing out now marketing that everyone should be on a VPN. Everyone should be on a VPN. Look, we have a free VPN. Well, if you dig through the EULA, they're collecting every bit of that data to sell that data to third parties.
Yep.
And I would never trust a VPN for the random purpose of doing a VPN. So where a VPN does make sense is if I go to Starbucks and I want to get on the internet, well, I usually just use my phone, just because I can use that as a very safe alternative and not have any problem. But if I need to do anything significant, I've actually created a VPN on my Raspberry Pi. So it sits here. So if I go to Starbucks, all my computers have my VPN access, so I can have a VPN which links me right back into this home office, which means I can check my security, I can access my media vault and whatever else through that VPN. So that's kind of that's what I do as far as a VPN.
Well, I run private internet access, and you can read reviews and you can be as safe as you want to be, but at some point you're going to have to trust somebody with your data,
Correct.
whether it's your ISP or whether it's a VPN.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I have seen over the last couple of years with PIA is they're involved in the community. They're involved in trying to educate people on how to keep themselves private. They've been checked out by multiple sources for if they actually log user data and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
They're not perfect, but they do, like, in my opinion, the best out of anyone out there to try to mitigate any of the tracking, the logging, and all of the fears that you would have with your information being out there. So in contrast to what you said, I would rather trust somebody like Private Internet Access than somebody like Comcast. Because I know Comcast is trying to sell my info.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And so that's where you can get to the fun concept of obfuscating their data, just making it gray noise. And so that's one of the things I started to look into is, you could in theory deploy a bot which creates too much gray matter for them to sort it out.
Right.
That's the other thing to do. So you're right. I mean, at some point in time, we have to trust somebody. The question is, whom are we going to trust? Yep. I would rather not pass it. Like, I try not to pass data any further than I have to. And so I'll kind of default to the first line right in front of me and hope for the best in that respect. But I think that certainly is a worthy thing that each person needs to come up with their own decision. But as long as we think about it and come up with our own decision and have our own reasons, I think that's the important part.
I think the most important part is being aware of it and doing certain things to prevent people from, we'll talk to people and I'll talk to them about a VPN and they really could care less and it doesn't really matter. And to me, that's it just seems like you should care. I mean, it's your stuff, it's your data. Nobody should have access to that unless you allow them or want them to have access to it.
So let me ask you this: if you've looked at different VPNs, what's your thought on TunnelBear?
Well, I've looked at TunnelBear, and I don't remember. This was probably, I would say, it's got to be at least a year since I've looked at TunnelBear as far as trying it out. But the problem with TunnelBear for me was, and that's where I go back to private internet access, where TunnelBear did not offer the speeds that I can get from private internet access.
Okay.
So,
I guess that's one of the other questions people have always had is the problem with one of the problems with the VPN is it could very well limit your speed.
Yes, and some of them do because you're obviously going through their servers, so it may be less than what you're getting. But and again, this is all subjective to where you're at and what connection you have, because I've talked to people who use private internet access that don't get good speeds. But I get good speed. I get about the same or better speeds from private internet access than I do just my regular connection with Comcast. So I can do a speed test with Comcast, and I can get the same exact speed with private internet access on than I can with Comcast. So it is, and and that's not, I can't say that about everybody. Like I've tried ExpressVPN, I've tried AirVPN, on down the list. I went and tried pretty much anything that would work on Linux. I tried, and it just seems to me like, and there were certain problems with other ones, like okay, like the logging, for example. I want one that has no logging, or at least limits it to the utmost of to where it's hardly nothing. And certain ones will say they don't log, but they actually do. So that's why I was going around looking at reviews for the VPNs. People that actually checked into it and trying to get as much information as possible. And again, coming up with there was VPN Express, which is another high quality VPN. They're very fast, but they have a command line interface for their VPN. So you have to have a terminal open, and you have to leave that terminal open in order to run the VPN. You can't close it. So with private internet access, you can do it manually through OpenVPN, or they have the GUI app that you can connect to just like you would, same app that you use on your phone, or if you had Windows. So to me, over the last 2 or 3 years that I've been with private internet access, they've been the best. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for VPN, that would probably be a good one. Yeah, listen, I've weighed all the different things, and I've just decided for me personally, in the current landscape, if I get to the point where I thoroughly cannot trust Comcast, I'm just going to create too much gray noise for them to get useful data. Because the other thing to keep in mind is that as more and more people move to an SSL based encryption, like on their web browsers, the amount of data pulled is less. So, in other words, I don't use Google because I know for sure what Google does with my data. So I do not use Google unless I absolutely have to. So in that respect, I kind of keep that perspective open. But I'm not all that concerned with Comcast because I've done such a good job of keeping advertising out of my life anyway. you know, and that's the thing, is that we need to look for the options that give us more freedom and pull us away from that kind of stuff. So the data collection that does occur, like, we're not going to stop all data collection.
No, you're not.
Sad reality, but I want to minimize it as best as I can. I've just chosen not to do VPNs at this point in time. A lot of it's just because I don't like to use a lot of external services. That's right for me. That's why I built my own VPN. That's why I built a Kodi system instead of buying a Roku and all that kind of stuff. That's probably why I like Linux so much, as I can do more toying and tinkering on my own than I can with buying something else, because I'm just, I don't think that the economy is going to totally collapse if we all stop being addicted to consumerism. I think that the economy is supposed to be just fine.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a happy medium. You can't get rid of it all, but you can try to do your best to limit it. And as long as everybody's aware of that, I think that's where it starts. Educating people so they know that, so they're aware of that. Hey, they're tracking this. They're taking information from you here. And like I said, some people don't care. And if you don't care, that's great. But, for me, I care enough I still use certain Google. And it's funny because I have a Gmail account. Obviously, I have to with the YouTube. But I always used other services.
You don't have to. I mean,
Well, I don't have to. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have to, but I mean,
I don't have a Gmail account with you.
Well, you have a Gmail account, you just don't use it. I mean, you get one with your YouTube. I mean, you get it with your account, you just don't use it.
No, because you can create a YouTube account without Gmail. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
I don't use any of their crap. I mean, other than signing up.
I thought you had to have a Google account in order to create a YouTube account.
You need a Google account. You do not need a Gmail account.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is, you have the Gmail account, you're just not logging into it and using it. Like when
No,
you create a Google account.
there's no Gmail attached to what I'm doing, because you can
Really?
attach a Google account to a separate standalone email. And since I have
Oh,
I do all my stuff on external servers. I don't use anybody's all of my email that I use is my own personal email servers, my own personal stuff.
right.
Now, I contract the server out because I don't want to mess with managing email servers. But when you go in to create the Google account, you can specify what email you like. So I think I have 5 or 6 different, quote, Google accounts. Not a single one of them is attached to Gmail in any way. You know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have to do that. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that because Google makes it very hard to realize that. But as a web designer, the reason I know that is how many times I've had to create an analytics account, and the analytics account was my foray into everything else.
Right.
I have an analytics account, AdSense, a Search Console account. I manage, I don't even know how many Search Console websites out there. But yeah, I don't have a Gmail account anywhere.
Well, either way, you don't have a Gmail account, but I didn't have a Gmail account. I had GMX. I had a couple other services that I used, and just recently with the YouTube channel and everything, I created the Google account and whatever. But I still care, even though I use certain Google services, I still care about my privacy in some way. Okay, so like we'll collaborate a document, me and Rob, for the Destination Linux podcast, and we'll use the Google Docs for that. But I don't want like my personal information on there. So it's like
and that's a good application for that, and since I have to do all those collaborative things, like the biggest headache one I still have to deal with is Skype, which I'm going to be talking in my program tomorrow night about what Skype's doing. Oh, they're turning Skype social. Oh boy, I'm going to talk about that. But so, and I'm with you on that completely. And actually, back to Peppermint, what they did in Peppermint 8 that is definitely a selling point over 7 is there is now a Flash manager. If you go and you look at that Flash manager it's in the Peppermint settings in Peppermint 8, you can prevent Flash from storing any data on your computer. That is significant because that is where all of those tracking cookies are stored ultimately, is inside of Flash. Because Flash can store a cookie that is 100 times bigger than your browser can, like 100 kilobyte cookie. And that's the source of the zombie cookies and the cross-browser cookies, the roaming cookies, all those. They're all stored in Flash. And I think that's the only reason Flash has not completely died, even though everybody, including Adobe, has called for the end of it. Yeah. But what you do is, you block Flash from being able to do anything, or uninstall it if you don't need it. And then what you do is what I do, because I stay logged in on a couple computers onto my Google account for YouTube stuff, but I use a different browser for that than I do for everything else. That prevents whatever I'm doing in the other browser from being tagged onto my Google account. Yep. Because they don't just use your IP address, because the IP address is not as reliable. That's why it's not forensically reliable. You cannot, the police cannot track down an illegal activity to an IP address and prosecute on that basis, because my neighbor could have hacked into my router, know, and somebody else could have been here. And so that's why a hilarious thing is, if you look at if I go onto YouTube on my Apple computer, or if I go into YouTube over here on Chromium versus Firefox, I get completely different recommended videos because it has no idea that those are actually the same user.
Right.
Because I'll use the YouTube account for different things on different things, and it totally messes up their algorithm. So that's kind of the best thing to do, is just use multiple browsers. Identify one browser as the Google-only browser, and then use another browser for whatever else. And that's what I found works very well, actually.
All right, so wrapping up with Peppermint, what's your take on it? Your total overall take. Would you recommend it to people? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, my total overall take. I would not use it for a major, huge, good, ultimate production machine. It's just because it's just too low key for that. But for anything like these little netbooks, if you happen to have one of those old Windows tablets or something that's, some crappy low end thing, or you have an old computer or low end hardware, absolutely, Peppermint, it totally rocks for that.
Right.
Of course, the other competitions would be the MX16, the Linux Lite. I prefer Peppermint over those other two, but that's kind of a matter of opinion. It's, which file browser do you want, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So, well, comparing it to something like MX16 or Linux Lite, you know, you would rather run Peppermint though.
I'd rather run Peppermint, just because it. I just like the feel of it. I know MX16 gives you the bar on the side like Ubuntu, and I've never been a big fan. Although it's easy to move it, but Peppermint is by out of the box set up like a Windows computer, and I'm very productive in that type of environment. And so,
Right.
that's why I like it. So I give it
Well,
I give it 2 thumbs up and an absolute recommendation.
nice. Well, I have it installed on one of my other SSD drives for the testing purposes. So I'm think I'm going to run it for a little bit, and I linked all of my shortcuts to all of my documents over to my home folder, so I'm able to actually access all of my documents and everything I need. So I may just run that for a couple days on that drive and see how it works out, because it seems to me that, like I said, I can't customize it. Just, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things on it that bug me about it, but
Yeah.
I think overall, I think I could run it without a problem.
Yeah, and I've never bothered as much with the customizability, just because this is, for me, what this computer does is, if I'm going out and I don't plan on needing a lot of work, but I still kind of want to have a computer, I'll bring this one with me, and I use it for doing, I'll just write a couple small documents on it in LibreOffice, and that's pretty much all it gets used for. I don't even think I have an email account hooked up on it or anything else. It's
Well,
pretty
Run
much.
with Dolphin just joined the chat. So he's from MX16. So what do you have to say, Dolphin? What do you have to say about what's the one reason we should use MX16 over Peppermint?
Uh-oh. Might have to give him a second there to get caught up to the stream to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, that's all right.
I actually just installed MX16 on my VirtualBox this afternoon. I had a quick chance to do that. I was actually getting a few errors, but they seem to be corrected on an update.
Well, I actually downloaded the MX16 ISO to install it again to take another quick look at it, but I actually want to get the beta for the new one and see how that's coming along.
Yeah, I might look at the beta. I might look at
His answer is fewer trips to the dentist.
explain. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. Is there a conspiracy there?
Yeah, let's look. Let's put on the tinfoil hat.
Yeah,
That was a perfect answer there, Dolphin.
But I gotta tell you though, the reason I run Peppermint is because I don't think you're gonna be able to see it, but that little icon there on the menu is a Peppermint. That's why I run it.
Is that the only reason?
That's it.
That's
That
it.
thing's a Peppermint, man.
Well, for this live stream, I had a peppermint background with all kinds of peppermint candies behind us, but I chose with the to go with the rolling stars there.
Okay, yeah. Well, that reminds me. In fact, I got to check if that other alternate Peppermint background's on here. See, here's the thing. Okay, here's the downside of Peppermint 7. All right, they did not include any desktop theme that has a Peppermint on it, but they've corrected that on Peppermint 8. So,
I did notice what you were talking about though with the raised theme, with the raised wallpaper. It definitely looks better. The alternative wallpaper definitely looks better than the one that's by default.
It does, but I think that they went with the default one because the whole world seems to be going with these flat designs, which drive me bananas to no end. But yeah,
It's easily changed. And one thing I did notice, and I can't say this for other desktop environments, that with the Peppermint wallpaper, you can add other folders, just like you can in certain other ones you can add other folders, but it picks up everything in the folder. It doesn't just pick up, like, what I'm saying is it picks up everything in subfolders. So I showed it my wallpaper folder, and it went through all of them, including all of the subfolders in there. And not all desktop environments do that. So
Wait,
now
to find your desktop backgrounds?
to find my, so I have a wallpaper folder in my pictures.
Okay.
So I added that folder to the wallpaper, and I have subfolders in there for like landscape and mountains and cars and whatnot. And it
Mhm.
was able to pick up everything and show everything all in the screen, rather than where there are a lot of desktop environments I have to actually add each separate folder for it
Mhm.
to pick up the wallpaper. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah, I think Mint does that. I think Mint, you have to specify the exact folder it's looking for.
Yeah, it doesn't. Not all of them pick that up. So there's definitely some good things about little things that make it nice. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's I mean, I enjoy it. Like I said, this computer, for about the first 6 months or so that I had this computer, I was running Ubuntu on it, Ubuntu 16, which worked actually just fine. But of course, Ubuntu is a pretty heavy operating system, especially to run on something with 2 gigs of RAM. And it worked fine. And actually, the funny thing about this computer is this is the only computer in my office that, well, I almost dropped it, that truly dual boots into Windows 10. It's the only computer I have where 2 operating systems are on the same hard disk. you know,
well, I have a
everywhere.
confession to make. Um,
Confession time.
oh
You get
boy,
into confessionals. I have a confession.
I am running Ubuntu right now.
Hey, I like Ubuntu. I like Ubuntu. I do. Now, I used to run my Ubuntu on an external hard drive to manage my media. That thing died, and I still wanted to run a flavor of Ubuntu, but since I wanted to do it on the big computer, um, it has an AMD graphics card, so I couldn't use Ubuntu 16 because Unity does not work on the AMD graphics card. Um, so what I did, but I didn't want 17, so I ran, for the first time, I'm running Ubuntu Mate.
hmm
And with Ubuntu Mate, I'm enjoying Ubuntu Mate. I've done my customizations and added my own software, but it's becoming my full media manager, and it's absolutely
The
amazing.
only problem I have, look, I have Ubuntu Mate installed on another drive, and it's on my father's computer as well. It runs perfect. Okay. The only problem that I have is it will not run Kden Live right for me. Kden Live crashes constantly
Hmm. I'll have
with
to try
what
that.
anytime I run Mate, and I've talked to other people and they run it fine. I mean, they run Kden Live with no problems at all.
Is it
But
uh, is it the Kden Live from the repository, or is it
it's from the software boutique.
okay? Try adding the PPA and running it directly from Kden Live, because actually on Pepper or on Linux Mint, I could not run the Kden Live from the repository. It would not work. And so I added the PPAs, um,
Wow.
downloaded the Kden Live directly, and it worked beautifully. Let's try that. Because I used to use OpenShot, and then OpenShot did its update thing, and that I did not like. OpenShot to me is like Windows Live Movie Maker. It has
hmm
its applications, but it's very basic. But they made it still basic, but extremely complex to use, and I didn't like that. And so it's like, if I'm going to use something complex, I'm going to use Kden Live because I can do
Right.
more stuff on it.
Well, to be honest with you, I think OpenShot, if you're not used to editing videos, OpenShot has an easier learning curve to pick up than Kden Live.
Yes,
If you've
absolutely.
used Kden Live before, you can be lost in OpenShot because you don't know exactly how to do it. But as far as just picking it up the first time, I think OpenShot is a little bit easier to pick up. But I'll have to try that with the PPA because I mean I thought I had tried that, but I may not have. Uh,
Let me see what version I'm running here of
I think
Kden.
the latest PPA, I think the latest Kden Live would be like 1704, ain't for the KDE apps.
Okay, my Kden Live using MLT version 6.5.0. Wait, hold on. KDE framework 5.18.0 Qt
What's
551.
the KDE apps version? Like it should be like 16 something.
Oh, no. KDE Live 16.08 icon, it says. I'm in the About KDE Live. Let me see about KDE. I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Well, again, running Mate. That's like one of the only things, one of the only reasons that I'm
Okay.
not running it right now.
Version 16.12.3.
There you go. Yeah. So I don't is
The
is
big
that the
thing.
one from the boutique or is that from the PPA?
I don't. Let me check. See if I have PPAs installed. I think that this is from the. Well, this is Linux Mint Cinnamon 18.1.
Okay.
So
Oh,
I
so you don't have you're not on Mate, so you're not on Ubuntu Mate with the software
no,
boutique.
but the computer I had a problem with is my other Cinnamon computer, which I originally installed as 17.3, and that's the one that would not run. That would not run the Kden Live. It would crash every time I try and run it.
Well, speaking of Cinnamon, are you really a fan of the Cinnamon menu? Do you use the default menu or do you add another one?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely love it.
See, I am so not a fan of the cinnamon menu. I just have not. I've never have been. That's like one of the first things I change on cinnamon is when I go in is add one of the other menus and like what is it? Sin Start menu, I think it is like one of the best menus out there for cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it looks like I do have the Kden Live PPAs installed. So, and I'm not sure if that's something that I did or if that's something that Mint did. I'm not sure, but
Right.
regardless, they are installed here. Okay, yeah, I mean, I really do like it. I just everything about it. It's got the favorites on the one side. I can customize it easily. To me, I love it.
Right. You know what though? Rob had asked me a question the other day, and he said to me, you know, what like we'll do distro reviews all the time, and we'll recommend to other people to use Linux Mint,
Mhm.
whatever version of it, but we'll recommend to them because it's a easy to use distro and everything.
Mhm.
But we never once think about running it ourselves. And I guess I should. I guess I should think about running Linux Mint myself because
Yeah.
like we recommend it all the time, but you run it.
Yeah, well, and the only one I would warn against is Linux Mint KDE is very buggy. And that's what I'm running over here. It works. I mean, I can deal with the bugs, and I don't know if the bugs are because it's Linux Mint or the bugs are because it's KDE. I don't know.
Right.
I love the computer. I know what its idiosyncrasies are, so I'm not quite as concerned. But Linux Mint Cinnamon, I love it. I've used the other ones, but I just go back and I got to tell you, like my foray into Linux, like I said, I jumped back into Linux. I first experimented with Linux in Ubuntu 13,
Right.
but I went back into Linux hardcore right about the time I saw the release notes for Windows 10 because I'm like, I want nothing to do with that.
Yep.
And so I started looking around and I went back to Ubuntu, which is at that time 15 or 16, I don't know, 15, I think it was. I don't know. And play with that. And actually, I bought this other computer. There we go. So I bought this guy here, which is a Inspiron, is it 72 something? It's a 7000 series, 7548. It has a, I think, fifth or sixth generation Core i5, and bought it for $300 as a floor model.
So how does that run the heavier systems like GNOME or one of the heavier
I don't
Linux
know. I
operating?
brought it home. I booted into Windows 10 just to verify everything worked. And when everything did, I wiped to the hard drive. I was going to run Ubuntu on it. And then I found Linux Mint. I'm like, this is exactly what I want. And I put Linux Mint on it and I never looked back.
It's been there ever since.
Yep. It started at 17.3 and I upgraded to 18.0 because I could not get VPNs working on 17.3 on that particular hardware configuration. But upgraded to 18.0 and worked great ever since. So I've never looked back. I can tell you I've booted off of USB drives. I've booted Ubuntu. I've booted Qubes on it. I've booted Tails on it before, which is GNOME, and no problems at all. Yeah. It's a very good system.
That's good to know. Well, like I said, I'm running Ubuntu right now because I was running elementary and I was having just certain things going wrong with it that I needed to get off of it. And we do the podcast every week. So I have this specific version of Zoom until they come out with the updated version. I have a specific version of Zoom from them because of the way I record with two windows that actually works. The regular version of Zoom that you download from the website doesn't work. And the version in the Arch repository doesn't work for me. It works, but you can only get a black screen on one of the windows. And I need both of them to work in order to record. Like, in order to record you and me, I need to have both of them screens work. So I needed to move from elementary. I needed an Ubuntu-based distro. And I would have loved to gone back to GNOME, but I get a hesitation from GNOME, and I think it has to do with my NVIDIA drivers. But I get a hesitation with GNOME to where that makes it unusable for me. So I needed to pick something. So I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to try Ubuntu and see how it works out. And because I never really ran it before.
Are you on Unity or?
Yeah.
17, 16?
1704.
1704. Yeah.
And I had tried it. I had downloaded it, and I had installed it on a test drive. Did a video on it. And that video is still sitting on my other hard drive because the day or the second day after I made that video is when they announced they were switching to GNOME. So I figured it was worthless.
I'd still put it out anyway.
I figured it was worthless to put the video on it.
Unity 7 or Unity 8?
I could not get. Now I haven't tried it on this install, but on that install of Unity, I could not get logged into Unity to 8. It would not. It wouldn't boot into it. No, it would just throw me right back to the login screen.
It doesn't really work.
Now, maybe that had something to do with the NVIDIA drivers as well. But so that's why I'm on Unity, Ubuntu for now. I don't think I'm going to be staying here, although I am enjoying it right now. I mean,
yeah,
it is
like
a little bit heavy, but
I'll tell you where I really enjoyed Unity. And I don't have a computer running Unity right now, but where I've enjoyed Unity is when I had to deal with AWS cloud service things, because you have to terminal into those things and managing entire things on a terminal. For whatever reason, I really liked the Unity environment for those. But actually, right now, it's Peppermint. This is the computer I use to interface with AWS now. That's it, you know?
I don't like everything about it, but there's certain aspects about it that I do love. And, the way the panel goes transparent when you open the menu and it actually integrates itself into the panel. I mean, those things are just, to me, those things are awesome. And it makes it a pleasure to run it. Not everything about it is a pleasure, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's not a bad. I don't hate it at all. It's not my preference. Like the reasons I couldn't use Ubuntu, and in fact, I might have actually had Ubuntu on that computer for a day. But the problem I had with Ubuntu is, for me in a production environment, I have to be able to very quickly boot up new windows of things, and in a way that flows with my workflow, because I don't have time to mess around with lots of different things and make things work. I mean, I run this channel. I'm starting up another channel. I run a web design business. I'm writing 2 books. I'm busy. Right. I don't have time to mess around with a whole lot more. And with all that being said, I just need something that works. And, and if I'm right here on Linux Mint and I want to get KDE up, boom, it's loaded.
Yeah.
Okay. It's done. I don't have time to mess around with everything else. And likewise, if I need a window of Firefox, I can do the same thing that the quick launch bar was in Windows. Of course, starting in was it 7, you had to start manually putting it back on. Could not stand that concept of pinning stuff to the taskbar. That's the most useless crap ever. And all Ubuntu is with Unity, it's one giant sidebar of pinned stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't mind that because I normally run a plank dock, whether it's at the bottom or on the side. I usually run a plank dock with all of my apps pinned to it anyway.
But the problem is with the Planck dock is it runs the same way. And the same thing with the Mac. I can't go down to that thing with Firefox running. I can't go down, push Firefox again, and get a second window.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I need to do fast. Because when I get I do primarily hardcore WordPress development, build themes ground up, make sure things are working. Sometimes somebody submits to me an HTML site, and I need to make sure that HTML site is exactly the same thing coded into WordPress. And so when I'm doing that, I need to have this window open, probably with 5 or 6 tabs of the WordPress. I need to have this window open, 5 or 6 tabs with the HTML site, this window open with my codex reserves, because believe it or not, even us hardcore WordPress guys do not remember everything about the WordPress codex. The question is, how quickly can you find it? And so, so it just kind of becomes this giant, I need multiple windows open without messing around. Like, I know I can go over there and I can go over and middle click the thing, but no, I need to go to the bottom corner where I'm used to going and click the button. And Cinnamon gives me the ability to do that perfectly. I got the start menu functionality without fighting with it. I got everything already working. So that's kind of why I use Cinnamon. It's just, and it works out of the box. I don't have to mess with it. I don't have to do 24 steps to get the thing usable like Fedora.
Right. Well, I still have KDE Neon installed on a partition on the other drive. So I booted into that the other day and updated to 5.10, and I go back to it, and like I said, I have that love-hate relationship with KDE, and I go, you boot into it, and it just looks so good, man. It just looks so good.
Let's see if I see some updates on my thing here. I'm wondering if I have that.
And what is that? What are you running the base of that?
It's Linux Mint KDE.
Oh, okay.
Which I would not recommend.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Mint's going to get that. They're probably not going to get the 5.10, because they usually stick with whatever version they have for a while.
This was running an older version of KDE when I first installed it, and about a month later, the newer version was pushed to it.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of K stuff in here. I don't know.
Yeah, you ain't lying, Joe. Love-hate goes with every distro. We talked about that before. There's no perfect distro out there. There's always going to be 1 or 2 issues that you have with it. You just got to run with what's best for you, and forget the fact that you're gonna have to, like you do with that KDE installation. You expect certain bugs with it, so you expect it and go with it anyway.
We're gonna push these updates. We're gonna see what happens.
Pushing updates live.
Pushing updates live. Well, unfortunately, it's not the same computer I'm on here.
Right.
But I might have to leave the comment stream here. Not that I've commented much. Yeah, I should say hello to everybody. Hey, Chip, how's it going? Chip actually lives the town over from me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. We found that out. So. And then he sent me an email like, hey, let's get some coffee. And it was to that email. It's somehow linked to my YouTube account that I just checked for the first time in 3 months last night. Just because, I already have 15 email addresses that get checked every day. It's like I just never added that to my queue of email addresses.
Right. I got about 10 email addresses in my Thunderbird. Yeah. Have you tried other ones besides Thunderbird, like Evolution or anything like that?
Actually, Evolution is my preferred email.
Really?
So on Linux, yeah. And the reason is going back, I don't know how long you've used Thunderbird. Have you used Thunderbird version 2?
Wow. That's going back a ways.
Yeah, like 10 years. That's what I used in grad school, Thunderbird version 2. And I loved it. And then 3. And what they did with 3 is they followed the suite. Like, one developer comes up with some new concept, and then everyone wants to follow it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it ended up what basically like Apple Mail and Thunderbird is now, where every single email address is its own little thing. It drives me mad because I have, like, in my business accounts, I might have 2 or 3 different email addresses. People might have 2 or 3 different email addresses for me as different things, and it's no guarantee which one they're going to send. I need a flat, blank, unified inbox without any craziness. and Evolution gives me that. Evolution
Right.
does, and Kmail does right now.
Well,
And
I used Kmail a while back, and this has been
Mhm.
a year, been a couple years actually, probably. Um, but I had one issue, and it was still when I was using pop accounts and everything, and it lost some of my emails. And I
the,
customized it to the hilt. I mean, it was great. It was just like KDE. You could customize
I
everything.
yep.
And I was like, no way am I taking my emails as,
It didn't
collateral
lose
for losing
them.
them.
What happens is you have to go, and on Kmail is like the most user unfriendly email platform I've ever seen. You have to go into the settings and add every single email you intend to check email on first, or when you add the new email, it creates a new folder with that, and the other folder gets hidden.
Dude, I
Stupid.
was like, no way. There's no way I'm taking any more chances with my emails or nothing. So I never went back to Kmail. Now, I
Yeah.
just recently installed Evolution and tried it, and it really does work well. When I had tried it before, and now I run a lot of filters
Mhm.
for throwing folders in or mail into different folders, and it does go slower in that respect compared to Thunderbird.
It does what?
Uh,
Oh,
it
it's
goes
slower. Yeah.
slower, checking and filtering than Thunderbird, but it really does work well,
Mhm.
and it gives you enough customization that I think it's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I mean, like I still run on my Windows computer. I'm still running Outlook 2007 because after Outlook 2007, they went with that same thing. Every email has its own folder,
Yeah,
and it drives me mad. So I absolutely love the way it works. I'm not changing, you know. And Evolution, think I have my Evolution set up exactly the same way, except it's better because if I need to copy an email address, Evolution allows me to easily copy an email address. If you've ever tried to copy an email address out of Outlook,
yes,
nope.
yep. It has the copy raw email address option when you right click on an email. Like when you right click on um,
I've
on a
never seen that on
yes,
Outlook.
yep. No, on
Oh,
Evolution.
yeah,
On
yeah.
Evolution, you can click on the email, right click on the email address, and you can copy the email address, but that actually gives you the name of the email and everything in the
Mhm.
brackets. But you can hit copy raw email address, and it
Yep.
just gives you the email address. And
That yes, that's exactly what I want. Outlook does not give you that option. So I have to copy from Outlook, paste it in a notepad, delete everything else, and recopy it out of notebook, or notepad, whatever.
did I see the email or the Michael Tunnell's video for Kmail? No, I did not. David, I did not see that today. So I'll have to check that out. I
Huh.
thought I got notifications from any of his videos, but he's a big KDE guy.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. It took me a good few hours to figure that out with Kmail, but once I got it taken care of, it was pretty good. Um,
I'm still leery. Once you have that happen to you, you're like, I don't know.
well, here's the trick to proper email management on POP3 though is you dedicate only one computer to clear email off the server, and you only do it 10 days later, so you never lose.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't have any pop accounts anymore, so it would probably work fine now. It was
Mhm.
just at the time all I had were pop accounts. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah. From 528. No, I still didn't see it, Mike, David, but I will check it out. So,
Two
what do you
minutes.
think? What do you think's the next distro I should try for my main system? Because I'm not going to stay on Ubuntu. I mean,
Next distro. I'm telling you, you guys keep recommending Linux Mint, but you're not doing it. So,
maybe I should try Linux Mint. I don't know. I mean,
okay, you're gonna have to try Linux Mint eventually. But outside Linux Mint, have you tried Corora?
wait. Did I try Karora? I thought I did a video on Karora. Or
You
no,
might have.
somebody recommended I do a video on Karora, and I
Yeah,
never did.
it's neat. It's kind of like Linux Mint for Fedora. It's like Fedora that works out of the box. You should try that one.
Manjaro KDE? No way, man. No way. I can't get that thing installed. No, I mean,
What
yeah, no, wait.
KDE
I
was it?
ran Mint. Yeah, I ran. That was way before doing any reviews or videos or anything, David. So I did run Mint before. Yes, I did run Cinnamon.
Okay, this way, yeah,
But
my
I'm saying like now, I
virtual.
recommend people to go to Mint, and I don't. I don't ever run it. I never even think about running it.
Yeah,
So
I'm not sure which is better, Linux Mint Mate or Linux Mint Cinnamon. I'm not sure. That might depend on your choices. I The reason I like Cinnamon over Mate is that it gives me like it looks more modern to me with Cinnamon.
yep.
Without of course as modern as Windows 10, because that's just like go shoot myself. No, but
Uh,
it
Joe
gives
Joe says he likes the menu better in Mate, but or Mate, but
no.
you know like that you can
Uh,
change. Like
Joe,
for
what?
the cinnamon, I
Yeah,
wouldn't keep the default menu.
which menu is in Mate, Linux Mint Mate by default? Is it Whisker or what?
No, it's I think it's the advanced menu.
Is that the one that's in Ubuntu Mate?
Yes, well, it's the one. It's in Ubuntu
The
Mate. It's
default.
you have to enable it. It's called the advanced menu in the tweak option. By default, I think it's the three-tiered menu and now Brisk. But when you go into Mate tweak, it'll say advanced menu, and you
Okay.
enable that. That's actually the menu
Yeah,
that my dad runs.
I mean, I absolutely hate the menu that is on Ubuntu Mate by default.
The
Um,
three-tiered menu.
Whatever one is the default in the upper corner.
Yeah, 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 yep.
I hate that thing. And so I went down after about 3 days of trying to use the stupid thing. I'm like, this is dumb. So and I want my menu in the bottom left hand corner. You know, Windows did it to me. Microsoft has trained me like a
Yeah,
drone, I guess. And
it's
so
all
I
Microsoft's
right
fault,
click the
man.
panel and I added, I don't know, is it the Whisker or whatever menu there that has a search function that looks new and modern. That's the one I'm using in Ubuntu Mate right
Well,
now.
who knows? Maybe I'll download Linux Mint Cinnamon and try it out because I did try Fair and I did like it.
Yeah.
Because I used to run Cinnamon. I used to run Cinnamon for a long time.
Hmm.
Uh, but then we ended up, like I said, we always go back to KDE. So,
Huh. Yeah.
but you said about Corora, but that's a what is that? Is that a KDE or is that a GNOME version? Like, is
Um,
that what do they have?
Roro.
Somebody
I,
somebody in one of the comments suggested I look at Corora, but I don't remember. They may have a few different versions. I don't know.
I think they do. Because I think what, let's see. One of those distros around that time that I did that one, I actually wanted to run a different one. And I want to say that this is the one that if I had to run GNOME, it would be the one I'd use. Let's see.
I really got
But
used to
maybe that was
running
something
it.
else. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So this is cool. Because if you go to the coronaproject.org and go to download, first you pick the version. You can pick the 24 or the 25, which is based on, Fedora 24 or Fedora 25, right? Is that right? Sound right? Sounds about right. Okay, whatever. And then second is you pick your desktop configuration. So you can go with GNOME, Mate, KDE, Cinnamon, or XFCE. And
I
then you
wouldn't.
can choose an HTTP or a torrent download. So,
I
yeah, you could do any of them.
I
And
wonder how the Cinnamon version runs on that.
yeah, I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing to look at. Hmm.
Because before Opricity OS shut down, I checked out the Cinnamon version of theirs, and it was really sluggish, man.
Hmm.
The menus were like hesitating to open, and I was disappointed because Apricity does look good and it has a few nice features in it. And I actually think the Ice application is one of the things about Apricity, if I remember correctly, that they do as well. They put in by default, and I wanted to really try it out, but I couldn't do it because it was just so laggy.
Hmm.
I
I'm
was
gonna
really disappointed.
I'm gonna boot up one here if this computer boots up in time here. And ever look at Makulu?
I've looked at it in videos, but I've never downloaded it and tried it.
I have my Makulu themed. It looks almost exactly like Windows 10.
What?
I'll just show you this. This is awesome. The only thing
Yeah.
that's different is if you look closely at the menu, you can tell it's not Windows 10, but you got to look kind of close.
Well, there's a menu in KDE. What's it called? The tiled menu. It's a widget you add, a plasma widget you add, and it is a Windows 10-esque menu where it has the big block tiles. Maybe you want to try that on your KDE Mint.
Well, I'm going to. I'm shutting down the system here and restarting. The updates are in. Let's see what the updates did. See if I have the same versions of everything. Make sure nothing broke. It's the downside. Sometimes things break. That's why on Windows, I have Windows systems I don't allow on the internet anymore because I don't want to. I don't want to allow them to update because I want security updates, but I don't want feature changes.
Right.
Stop using my features.
Well, somebody mentioned Deepin. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you, and maybe it's just me, but do you have an issue with using something like Deepin because of where it comes from?
I did a review of it, and I think that might have been my objection, is that it was a Chinese base, or maybe I tried to do it and I couldn't get it downloaded. I forget, but
Nothing. I mean, nothing against the developers or anything. I just don't know if I would be comfortable running it.
yeah, I'd want to test it for a good week or so behind a Wireshark before I'd really trust it.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with Rosa. I don't know if you ever checked out Rosa. That's a Russian-based operating system, and it's got a KDE version and a couple. I think it's got a. I think it's a KDE and a couple other ones, but it's actually got a KDE 4 version as well. And even that I don't know if I'd want to run without checking into it.
I'm trying to think if I.
Well, you're right, Country Fried. It doesn't necessarily mean Chinese government, but I guess it's the cynic in me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it doesn't necessarily mean it isn't, but it doesn't mean
question.
it isn't.
And the reason is I'm moving away from using a Kindle. The only open source ebook app reader available on the iPhone right now is eBooks, which is a Russian based system. So I'm actually running a Russian based ebook reader on my iPhone, and hopefully it's
And you're okay with that?
No,
where's your tinfoil hat when you need it?
But the question becomes: do I trust the Russians more than do I trust Amazon?
That's a hard choice, actually.
And that's my point, right? That's my point, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get rid of things like I'm trying to get rid of stuff that is the DRM lockdown, deep tracking, stuff like that. Like, to put a book on on a Kindle on my phone, I still have to send it to my Amazon account.
Right.
It has to be managed through that.
Well, I don't know. I'm just like I said, to me that is something that I don't know if I would feel comfortable running. Although everybody talks about how beautiful it is and everything else, I just don't know if I'd feel comfortable doing it.
Really?
So I have to figure out what I'm going to end up switching to or running. And okay, do you run any Arch-based systems at all? Do you run like Intergos or anything like that?
No, I've done reviews of them, but that's about as far as I've gotten.
Well, for example, Intergos, I love the way they set up their KDE version and their GNOME version. And it's probably the easiest install and using of it out of all the Arch-based distros out there. But I always have this thing where, you had said about it earlier, where you just need to sit down and get some work done.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times with Arch where you can't, because you have to fix something that broke.
Yep.
And when you're running Arch, you have to expect that that happens every once in a while, and I am not comfortable with that happening constantly.
Here you go. Here's
What is that? That is Windows 10, dude.
Makulu Linux, and
Wait, that is that the wow, look at that.
yeah, if you can't see it closely, but I have actually made all of the icons. The hardest part to do this was actually to get the Windows logo like exactly like the Windows 10 logo. Because I actually
Yeah.
had to do it with a Windows 10 computer running so I could match the sizes right. But all the folders, all the icons, everything.
What
And the
menu
reason
is that?
what's that?
What menu is that?
This is
What's it
it's a
what's the
customized cinnamon menu.
Okay. All right.
So it's cinnamon. But the reason I wanted to run this is if I ever happen to get one of those tech scammers, this thing has pre-installed on it. I have TeamViewer pre-installed. So I would love to give somebody access to, okay, here's your TeamViewer. All right, now what you going to do? So this is just, it's just a funny little project, but I themed this thing to look exactly like, I could literally go somewhere and someone would think I'm on Windows 10.
Yep.
In fact, it even has WPS Office on it. So even running an Office program, oh, I guess I have to accept their EULA, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Problems detected in the solution. Yeah. So even that looks like Office.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. I mean, all of like how everything highlights. It's every fine little detail is just like Windows 10. And it's just hilarious.
Well, there's so many to try out there. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that's why I said which one do I go with? Really what I need to be doing is I need to be putting them on the test drive and just settling on one for the main drive.
Yeah. Let's see. It depends. Have you tried Qubes?
I don't know. Like I don't know what is Qubes.
Qubes is the isolated, privacy-centric one.
No, I've never tried Qubes.
Yeah, I think I have 5 or 6 videos and tutorials on it because what it does is it isolates every aspect of your operating system. So literally, it loads up on it's called the DOM0. Uses domains for everything, right? So um, it loads up your DOM0, and then it will. From there, it runs a separate virtual machine and runs a network adapter. And then it runs a separate network machine and runs a Unix network adapter. So you can run Tor on the thing in addition to running everything else. And then it gives you Debian and Fedora templates pre-installed. And then you build cubes off of those templates. And so you can run a cube. So running your individual cube, you can set which template it's off of, but every time the machine starts and stops, the only thing that stays consistent is whatever's in the home folder for that individual cube. So the idea is if you hit some virus somewhere, it can't spread anywhere else in the computer. So it's a like way more secure system. The downside is you lose the customizability. It's not exactly pretty, but it's really good. And I kind of went crazy once with one of my clients. Was like, they hired a person who doesn't actually know a lot about security to develop a security protocol. And then they proceeded to waste about 5 hours of my time asking me about how to do security stuff. And so I was like, all right. They're like, we want you to have password protect your computer. It's like, no kidding. And password protect your phone. It's like, really? So I'm like, all right, y'all want security? Okay. So I built it just for their stuff. So it has its own password manager. Everything is isolated, completely isolated on a encrypted drive, so it's just crazy.
Well, I don't know if I would try that.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to go that far.
It's fun. I'd give Kororo a spin. I mean,
Oh
after you
my
try the
gosh.
Linux Mint, but give Kororo a spin because I liked it. I thought, if I had to run Fedora or a Fedora-based machine, I'd probably want to run that because it's basically like you can think of it as Fedora with those 25 steps already done.
Right.
So,
I don't know. I've never actually installed Fedora to run it. I've installed it once to look at it, but I never actually ran it.
Yeah, and since somebody will probably say so in the comments, I'll go ahead and go on record to say that in the latest version of Fedora, you do actually now have the ability to install the codecs easily.
Right.
Which for the longest time was kind of a pain.
Joe wants to know how you feel about RoboLinux.
RoboLinux. I have no idea about RoboLinux. What is
I
that?
have heard of it, and I've seen videos on it. I just never downloaded it and tried it. It's supposed to be, if I remember correctly, RoboLinux was like Windows-esque friendly, like for programs and stuff.
RoboLinux.
If I'm thinking of the same one. It's number 5 on DistroWatch? Can't be. Come on.
I've never heard of
old. It. It's got to be an old. It's got a caption on the website saying it's number 5. It's under. It's got to be an old caption. Can't be number 5 on DistroWatch.
No. Actually, right now it's number 100 on DistroWatch.
I was going to say because that's got to be an old caption. Jeez, it's a screenshot of like 8 years ago or something.
Yeah, back when there were 10.
So it's got the mate interface, long-term support. Okay, so what sets this Linux distro apart from all others is its built-in ability to run Windows XP 7 and 10 in pre-installed virtual machines. So I guess that's how you can run the Windows programs easily or easier.
When I see it, so maybe I might have to download it and play with it. Because in my experience, maybe it can run Windows XP 7 and 7 virus free inside any Linux operating system. Usually my experience, and I've kind of jumped on this several times, a lot of newer, trendier Linux distros are trying to come out, target Windows users wanting to switch to Linux and say, you can run your Windows programs. And all that means that they're pre-configuring Wine, which you should never, ever, ever, ever do. Right. Should put Wine on the computer only if you need to and only if necessary, because what will Wine enable you to do? Run Windows viruses. The very reason you want to leave Windows.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because I've asked other people. I mean, do you even feel a need anymore to run Wine? I mean, like when I first switched.
I have my Warcraft 3. I've been playing that game since college, man. And it is installed on most of my Linux computers. Not all, but it is installed on a couple of my Linux computers. But yeah, I run that one program, and I don't think I have anything else that will run on Wine that I might potentially otherwise want to run.
I used to, when I first switched, I installed Wine every time I installed Linux, because there was always, 1 or 2 apps that you wanted to have. But I've gotten to the point now where there's not an app out there.
Yeah.
Look, don't get me wrong. I still have a Windows 10 boot drive to play games like Battlefield, because obviously Battlefield's never going to run in Wine or anything like that. But apart from that, I don't find myself needing to run any programs that I was accustomed to on Windows. I used to, but then I got used to the alternatives that Linux has. They run way better.
Yep.
There's no issues with them. So to me, Wine is like by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, and in fact, tonight I will still be playing Warcraft. I meet up every week with my cousin online, and we play some Warcraft. Now, I still use my Windows computer for that, and I will until the Windows computer dies. Will I ever use a Windows 10 computer for that? Probably not, because the only game I like to play runs well on Linux.
Right.
And so there's some other things. In fact, if anybody in the comments knows this, or if you know this, there are 2 games I play on my Xbox. I bought an Xbox 360, and I only play 2 games on it.
2 games.
2 games. One of those is Borderlands, and I really only like the original one because Borderlands 2, they killed off Malachi's bird, Bloodwing, and I'm just mad because Malachi's my favorite character. I have a personal grudge against Borderlands 2 because you killed Bloodwing.
Never again going to play the game because of that.
That's it, So I want to know, does Borderlands run well either under Steam on Linux or on Wine on Linux? Because I don't know. Want to know.
Maybe somebody in the chat knows.
And the other game is Black Ops. The original Black Ops. I like Black Ops 2, but I'm kind of a creature of habit. I don't really play a lot of new games. I don't really waste my time. But there's just those few games I like to play, and that's it. So if I could figure out how to get those 2 games to play well on Linux, I'd dump the Xbox.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Black Ops is actually one of the only games that I don't have out of the Call of Duty series.
Really?
I have all the other ones, including 2 and 3. I just don't have the first one. But my games are like Battlefield. Although Shadow of Mordor, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is one of my favorite games, and that does play on Linux. But I got to figure out how to get Steam installed on Ubuntu here because I tried to install it and it just has some issues.
Some people have asked me about that, and I did one game where I actually streamed Warcraft 3 to see if it'd work. I'm just not a gamer, I'm more of a production guy. But going back to what started this whole thing, when I first was switching to Linux, I'm like, ooh, can I get Photoshop working? And now I'm like, why?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, Photoshop does work better than GIMP and better than Krita, but between those 2 programs, I can get pretty much done what I need done. And a lot of it is, I've been using Photoshop for 7 years every single day. It makes sense that GIMP is a little harder to use right now, and I'm still am looking for a better alternative to Dreamweaver because there's one feature in Dreamweaver that works way better than any other application I've seen on Linux, and that is that there is a split screen that can show me the code in one panel and a what you see, what you get editor on the other panel. And the reason that's important is I do a whole lot of website editing, and I have somebody that says, change XYZ on the site to this person instead. And on Dreamweaver, I can split the window, highlight the part of the text over here. It highlights in the code. I go to the code. I change it in the code. So I don't have to search for the stupid thing.
Yeah.
There's no application. However, that being said, Bluefish Editor has everything else I need, including way better code tips and hints than Dreamweaver does. Dreamweaver does a decent job with hinting at CSS codes and things, but Bluefish, I type in the same exact thing, and not only do I get a hint on the CSS codes, I get a summary of what every single one does. That's just like, that's way better. So, and as the Windows 10 computer or the Windows 7 computer I have here dies, I'm not moving. I've decided I will never work production on Windows 10. So, as that happens, I already am ready to move completely over to Linux, and it will probably take me 1 month to get up to speed with all the other applications. But everything else, ebook management, I'm doing ebook management now on a Linux computer, and I can spread everything over to all my other phones without a third party getting access to all of my books.
Chip wants you to do a guide to step-by-step for GIMP.
I'm not that good with GIMP. Step-by-step guide with GIMP. Okay. Chip, what information on GIMP do we want? Tell Tom don't think he's watching chat. Yeah, I'm watching chat. I got chat window open over here. Hey, I got 10 computers, man. The Mac is even on, although I have co-opted its monitor to run a dual monitor system here.
I am not the guy to do a tutorial for GIMP because I use it and I can get around what I need. Like I can do cutouts and just minor
Yeah,
things. But I'm nowhere near an expert to start doing tutorials.
I mean, I could do some basics on it, but yeah, and I'm the same way. I probably need to get in there more. And one of the things I do right now is all the banners I make for my videos; those are
Yeah.
all done in GIMP. Um,
Yeah, all
so,
of the screenshots the same for me. For the screenshots for my videos are done in GIMP,
mhm.
and that's about the extent of my GIMP info.
Yeah, the downside of GIMP is it doesn't have layer properties. Krita does, but I can't use Krita at all because Krita has the most horrible text management known to mankind.
Uh,
However, that is absolutely the first thing on their radar to fix. Because the problem with Krita is when I go in there and try and make a change to a text layer, like you can select the font, but it's still subjective to how big you drag the box.
yep.
And in GIMP, which runs it properly, it's the font size. And if you need the box bigger, you have to drag the box bigger or smaller because it sets the font how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And once they fix that one issue with Krita will become my primary editor for images.
Well, the guy had sent us an email about Vector. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's now on Ubuntu Snap. It's a snap file that you can download, but it's a graphics editor, a vector editor, and it's I don't know. I'm not an expert in graphics. Okay, so I downloaded it. I looked at it. There's a couple tutorials on it on their website, but maybe you want to check that out because you're into that.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it, but I'll be honest with you. I Inkscape is like you're talking about programs that are very similar to things. Inkscape is every bit of what Illustrator is, absolutely to the letter, every bit what Illustrator is. And I cannot envision even wanting to learn something else. Because when you deal with graphics, you have to deal with the difference between a raster image and a vector image, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the difference, of course, is the raster image deals all in pixels, and the vector image deals with angles, lines, and calculations. Meaning, a vector image is a scalable image, and a
Right.
raster image is not. And so, a lot of people try and lump the editors together, and that's so inappropriate to do because, like, GIMP is not in any way, shape, or form an Illustrator type thing because GIMP, and the same with Photoshop. Photoshop has a rudimentary vector application part. You have your smart objects, etc. And GIMP may or may not have some of those features. But if you're dealing with creating logos and stuff like that, you really have to use a vector program. And Inkscape is like every bit of what Illustrator is. I can't envision that they're going to do much better, but I will actually add it to my list of things to look at
Yeah.
because I've not heard of it. Yeah. Ooh, I'm moving my camera around as I grab my notepad.
Well, talking about editors and everything, I tried to learn Blender,
Mhm.
and man, that thing is so detailed, man. I mean, I watched tutorials on it, and
Yeah.
I started to do minor things on it, but it is so detailed. Oh my gosh, because I was hoping that I could create like better intros and stuff through
Mhm.
Blender, but
Yeah.
that would take a year for me to learn that stuff.
Well, I mean, I did my channel intro in Blender, not knowing anything about Blender. It took me 3 days. Um, now I've been learning and using weird online software for a long, long time, but so I figured out what I needed to do. But yeah, it
Right.
was hard. And actually, the backgrounds. I don't know if you've ever seen the backgrounds on my desktop, but the backgrounds on my desktop are done in Blender as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah. Can I show my screen on this, or would that mess it up?
No, I think you should be able to show your screen. It'll just take your picture off.
Okay, let me share this one and slide this around. Do that. So let's see what that does.
All right. Well, let me. Okay, so I'm gonna move that. Yeah. No. See, it's no. It's not. You're not. We're not seeing it like it's supposed to.
What's
I'm
it
seeing
showing?
it. I'm seeing it, but they're not seeing it
Oh, okay. Oh,
just
it's
because of the way I'm recording it.
grabbing that. Yeah, okay. So, okay, I'll stop sharing, but you can almost see it.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
I did all those are also done in Blender. Of course, Blender you can do the animation stuff, but it's also though designed for doing 3-dimensional pictures as well. And so that's why you. Oh, I
There we
messed the
go.
whole thing up, didn't I?
No, it's all good. It's
Oh,
back. We're back.
okay. Well, it's like I'm still. I guess it just hasn't caught up online. There it is.
There it is. We're back.
Yeah, but it's complicated. It is. So it's definitely one that you got to commit
Well,
to it.
there's so many things that to do, like whether it's checking out distros, and there's so many to check out, or making
Mhm.
videos, and that's just all. This is all just side time compared to your normal life and your normal everyday routine. You have
Mhm.
to like pick and choose what you want to pick up.
Right.
Like I would love to learn like CSS and you know stuff like that, but that takes time to learn, and
Yeah.
there's not enough time in the
The,
day to
the
do everything you want
advantage
to do.
the advantage of CSS, and I'm not sure if it's like this on other distros, but on Cinnamon, all of the backend control is managed on CSS.
Nice.
CSS and JavaScript. And so I've actually tinkered around and like maybe I should build an entirely custom theme based on CSS. I haven't totally banked it, but I'm just a little too busy because it's a lot of work. But knowing what CSS is, I've done a few fun little things with my Cinnamon desktop on my one computer.
Yeah. Well, like I
But
said, I would love to learn it,
yeah, and
but it's just there's only so much time in the day, man, and
yep,
you know you run out of time to do things and learn things.
yep,
Yeah. Well, this has been a fun conversation, man.
absolutely.
We're
Yeah,
going on 2 hours.
we are.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it's
So what else you got? Anything?
oh, let's see. Um, Not a whole lot. I got some ideas of things. I guess why don't you tell me a little? Which distros should I look at next in my reviews? Of course, I probably wouldn't replace them on my desktop, but
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure MX16 is the main release is coming out soon.
yeah, I'm
So
going to do that.
that's one to look at. That's definitely one to look at.
You know what? I want to look at this RoboLinux too.
Yep, I agree. It's at least it's something to look at and show people. You know what I mean? It may not be something I would run, but now I still don't understand. It says about running pre-set up instances, VMs of Windows 7. Hold on, let me get back to where I was.
I don't see how they can do that.
I don't. That's what I was going to ask you. How are they able to do that? I mean, are they not activated or what? I mean,
Yeah, and you could do that. Like if you were to run a system like Qubes where it kills everything about it every time and spins up a brand new copy every time, you could get away without activating it because the thing's active for 30 days.
right?
But if you kill the whole thing and reboot it up, you just get the little thing down the corner. It says it's not activated. In fact, on my I have an OpenSUSE distro floating around here somewhere. It has a Windows 10 installed that's not activated. And last I knew, you can still run Windows 10 without activating it. You just can't customize it. Customize because
Yeah, you
customize
can't
Windows 10
customize
anyway.
it anyway,
I mean,
even with it activated.
I can't change the desktop background. I think. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm trying to read this and understand it. It says what sets Linux this distro apart is its built-in ability to run XP 7 and 10 in pre-installed virtual machines. And then it says this allows the user to install and run Windows operating systems seamlessly alongside RoboLinux. So how does that work? Is it pre-installed or isn't it where you install it? Or is it just set up to install?
Yeah, I don't know because stealth and what? Okay, here's a core question: what is stealth VM? Is that their own custom thing?
I don't know. Like I said, I've seen. Actually, I think I am subscribed to the guy that does RoboLinux on YouTube. So I've seen videos or one or two videos on it, but I've never downloaded it and never tried it.
Or I'm wondering, is this a software package, not a distro? That's got, I don't know. It's on Distro Watch.
Yep, run Windows XP and 7 inside any Linux operating system. Yep, I don't know. I'm going to have to look at it myself. Wait, download for Ubuntu, download for OpenSUSE.
And that's my question. It sounds like it's not even a. It sounds like it's software, not a distro.
So basically, this is just a VM that you're running, right? So you can run Ubuntu and then run RoboLinux inside of that.
And then what makes that difference from running, VirtualBox or VMware? Because I can do that as well and spin up 7 and just not activate it.
Right. What do you use for? You use VirtualBox or do you use GNOME boxes or what?
I use VirtualBox, and because it's an open source and the licensing, so there's no issue with using it on a video. If like everyone's like, use VMware, it's better. Well, VMware also would require a commercial license if I'm putting it on a video.
Oh, really?
Read the EULAs. Read the EULAs.
I've never tried it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's a commercial application. You can download it for free for your personal use without a problem. But once I put it on a video and I run a pre-roll ad on my video, that video is now considered commercial application, and the company can now sue me for not buying a commercial license.
Right.
So every time people I love it when people like that comment, like, hey, you should, it's like, well, run VMware, it's better. Well, I have never tried running VMware because I don't do this stuff. I don't run virtual boxes for my own personal gratification. I just don't. I have one computer where I do that, and that's on my other Linux Mint computer. I run a virtual box where I can run an Ubuntu server, because what I found is if I need to do offline PHP work, running it on a virtual box on an Ubuntu server means that I used to have to run the PHP server, and you could run into some security issues where depending on where you are.
Right.
But if I can spin it up and spin it down in a virtual box, much more secure environment. So that's the only case. And at that point in time, once you're just running an Ubuntu server, it doesn't matter. Everything else I do with a virtual box is just to play with stuff. And if I'm playing with something, it's eventually going to turn to a video because I don't have time to do this for fun.
Right.
I mean, not that I don't. I mean, I have fun doing the videos, but I don't do it just for sheer sake of fun.
Right. We must have been lagging or something because they're talking about us being frozen.
Whoa, we froze.
I don't know.
Sorry, Chip.
Well, we started out on Peppermint, and we went. It's funny because I put in the description Peppermint. We're going to talk about Peppermint and beyond, and we went beyond.
Yeah, we did.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, man. We have to do this again.
Absolutely, sounds like a blast.
But I think I am going to, especially with us lagging, I think I'm going to cut it off.
Yeah, that sounds good. Usually probably about 12 o'clock or so, about 8 minutes, I should be jumping on. I need to have my Windows computer back up by then.
All right. Well, we'll say goodnight to everybody in chat.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by.
Do you mind if I pitch the video I just did real quick?
No, do it.
So, what I wanted to do for my video today, where's my other thing at? Following in my DRM-free management of books is I did a video on using Calibri and specifically how to find new ebooks and put them on your tablets, on your phones, and other e-readers without having to submit yourself to the evil Amazon. So check out my Switch to Linux channel for that video, and that's I put it up while we were talking here, and let's see how many people have already sadly looked at that instead of watching us live. 36. Only had 36. So I think a lot of the people are watching this that would have otherwise seen it because I should have a lot more views on
Yeah.
that now, but that's probably
Carl, darn it, man, you missed it. We'll do another one tomorrow, Carl.
All right.
Yeah, so everybody check out Tom's channel. You already know Switch to Linux, but check out his newest video on ebook management.
Yes, using Calibri to manage ebooks on Linux is the name of it. And I did another one earlier today on my outdoor philosophy, how to ask for business and outdoor philosophy, chapter 7 of the book Power of Focus. And then I did some other newsy stuff, and I did a detailed walkthrough of Peppermint 8 the other day. So you can see
Nice.
that.
Well,
All
that
right.
will go along well with watching the first part of this. So everybody check out the Peppermint video as well.
Yep. All right. Hey, it was great chatting with you, and yeah, let me know when you want to do it again. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time, man.
All
All right,
right.
everybody, have a good night, and we will see you next time.
All right. So we'll see everybody later.